Hello. So if you're here, it's probably because you are wanting answers about hormonal IUDs, which is an intrauterine device, a form of birth control that you get inserted into your cervix or uterus, and it has a slow release of hormones that prevent pregnancy. And most people, I think, are taught that this option of birth control is different from, or at least the side effects will be less than the pill, birth control pills, supposedly because it has a much smaller amount of hormones and it stays localized in your sort of reproductive region. And the issue with that is there are so many women who, like me, experienced a lot of negative side effects and honestly felt kind of gaslit into thinking that like it wasn't the cause, or at least like, you know, there was all these other factors of your life that could have contributed to side effects like anxiety or depression or acne, because of the fact that these hormonal IUDs supposedly release such a small amount of hormones that it's not likely. So I understand that there is validity to that, in that a lot of women don't get negative side effects. And honestly, that would be amazing if I could be one of them. But I had my hormonal IUD, which actually it was Kyleena, and it's the one with the smallest dose of hormones in it. And I had it for 6 years, and I denied, I guess I was in denial for 6 years until literally I realized I need to replace it soon. And my friend pointed out that because she was helping me with my skin issues and my acne, giving me a lot of recommendations, she asked if I was on birth control, and if, you know, what type of birth control. She started pointing out that actually like a lot of this could be, like a lot of your skin issues could be coming from that. And I never once considered it because of the fact that like I was told that this isn't like the pill, so don't expect those kinds of side effects that you hear about on the pill. So yeah, after 6 years of honestly suffering a lot of mental health issues and not feeling like myself and not really being able to access positive emotions at the height of how I used to be able to, like if I were to feel joy or just more happier emotions, it kind of didn't really last long, and it didn't really feel full. Like it wasn't fully loving, joyful feelings as compared to like what I know I'm capable of and what I used to be able to feel before birth control, or before, I guess, the IUD. And like even just looking back on my journals throughout the past 5 or 6 years, and knowing like when my mental health like was the worst throughout my life, aligned with the first 5 years of my IUD. And I did get it removed in April, so I will talk about both the side effects while I had the hormonal IUD, and then the side effects now that I'm recognizing as I come off of it and my body's starting to rebalance and learn how to produce those hormones on its own. So there's also a lot of side effects that come from that as well, like this sort of rebound, I guess. And it's been now 4 months, I believe. I got it out in April 2024, and it is now July 2024. And I did watch a lot of other videos of women talking about their experiences, and tons of comment sections of people saying that they've experienced a lot of similar things, and just prepared. Like I really came in prepared to get it removed and knew what to expect, and even adjusted my diet and supplements to make sure that I'm getting the right nutrients that help with hormonal rebalancing. And yeah, so I'll get into that, and I'll spread it out through kind of a timeline from the beginning up until now. So I got my IUD, I believe it was June 2018, and it was a very painful insertion, because when they prepare your cervix to, even before they put it in, they have to kind of prod at your cervix, and it causes like such a crazy intense contraction, and I like freaked out and thought, like, is this what contractions during like labor feel like? And the woman who was inserting the IUD said it's different, but still very painful. And then yeah, I had like cramps for a couple of days, I believe, and eventually things kind of went back to normal after a couple of months. My period just kept getting lighter and lighter, which I think was the best part for sure about the IUD for me. Just having like such a light period and not having to like wear tampons or pads. I only needed a liner really during my period, but it did extend the amount of time. Like it usually lasted between 8 and 10, 11, sometimes even 12 days of just really like light spotting. During the first 3 to 4 years after that were like the hardest mental health years of my life, and I like just felt like no matter what I was doing, no matter what I like tried in terms of things that were supposed to help with mental health, nothing seemed to work. Nothing ever felt satisfying. It just always felt like this emptiness, like a depression that I couldn't escape. Whereas before that I've experienced depression, and I felt like I was able to eventually take enough actions to get myself out of it, to get myself onto a path that's that just felt more me, and just doing things that were generally just would make me feel more fulfilled. But for this, like, I just felt like I was always drowning during those years. Like I didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel a lot of positive emotions, which I used to be such an optimistic, positive person. So it was just so defeating that every time I almost thought like, oh, I'm better, I feel joy again, and then I would just fall right back into a sort of dark place, and it would just last for weeks and months, and then I would rise out of it for a very short period of time, and then I'd fall right back into it. And I'd honestly just became more of a negative person, I would say. Again, very unlike other versions of me, and just critical of everything. And my mind was so tense all the time. Like I just always saw problems everywhere. And then my acne too. My acne just kept getting worse and worse. And on top of that, like, the worse your mental health is, the worse you eat. Well, at least for me, like I just would cope with a lot of, I would cope with food and just eat a lot of things that weren't good for me, and would also just make me break out even more. So I just was constantly inflamed, and I ended up eventually trying a lot of things that were supposed to be good for skincare, and nothing ever really worked. So I was 23 years old, I believe, when I first got it. And it was like, as I got older, my acne got worse. So yeah, during those, I would say by the second year is really when my skin got really bad, but the second year of like having the IUD in. And then it just continued to stay bad, I guess. And I tried to hop on all these skincare recommendations on TikTok, and started doing more like facials and microdermabrasion and all these things that are supposed to be good for skin, retinol, but nothing ever worked. So yeah, that kind of eventually led me to recently discovering that it could be your IUD. And so I got that out, and I, at the same time though, like actually a few weeks before I got the IUD out, I actually started tretinoin, which is a cream that is, I think, the strongest form of retinol, and it's supposed to be really, really good for anti-aging and acne. But it is quite strong and can dry out your skin a lot. So I did get that started before I got my IUD out, and then I also started to take like supplements and a lot of the things that people recommended for skin. And yeah, and then I got the IUD out, and then I got my period. So once my period was over, I already felt a difference in my mind. I did feel like that tightness, that tension that's just always in my brain and just always looking for problems everywhere. Like I felt that kind of release, like it just felt lighter in my mind. I felt like I could access more positive emotions at a different depth, if that makes sense. Like I just felt gratitude in a way that was more full. And what else? Oh, and then I definitely saw changes with my skin, but I was doing a lot of things to help with that. So it really was like a combination of factors, but I know at least for sure that both tretinoin and probably getting the IUD out, like my skin texture and the redness really decreased because I think it just wasn't so inflamed. And then the texture of my skin started to change as well, assuming that's from the tretinoin. And then just generally eating healthier too probably decreases inflammation. So the pimples that I used to get, they would just be so aggravated and like a lot of whiteheads and redness. But now, like when I get pimples, like they're quite small. Like even if they're whiteheads, like or red, like they would usually just be way smaller than they used to be. So that's pretty cool to see. And then I was also told that when usually around the 3 to 6 month period after you stop birth control, whether it's a pill or IUD removal, usually that's around the time where your body really starts to go a little crazy with the side effects on trying to rebalance your hormones or produce hormones on your own without birth control. And so some of the side effects I was warned about were like extreme PMS. Also, I've heard a lot of people would have really bad acne flare-ups. But my acne was already so crappy before, so I think that so far it's doing okay. And then what else? Oh, and another side effect that I've heard about for birth control in general is changes in like weight or like your gut health, like bloating. I also used to bloat a lot in the first couple of years, but I also think that mental health wise too, I was not doing good. And I think that if you have a lot of trauma to work through or you have a lot of trauma stored in your body, that also really affects your gut. So I think there was a lot of combination of things contributing to poor mental health. But what I do think, and I'm pretty sure about, is that even though I did have a lot of things that probably, I guess, circumstances that contributed to my mental health struggles, the IUD wasn't something that helped because it almost like, it was like a lens. Like it affected the way that I saw the world or myself. It was like this cloudiness over my brain. So that whatever I was experiencing, I was interpreting it in what felt like a much more negative light. But again, I think that a lot of doctors will probably not want to say that this is a causation and that there's a correlation here, but I mean, if there are so many women talking about this online, talking about their experiences, and hundreds of comments saying like how they relate and how horrible they felt with an IUD. It's just like, clearly there needs to be some better research on this, because it's like horrifying that you're putting hormones in your body and telling people this isn't gonna affect you. This is not gonna get in your bloodstream because it's only in one organ. Like, are you kidding me? If you put anything in your body, like, your whole body is interconnected. It's every system feeds into one another. So if you're getting hormones absorbed into one part of your body, how could it not somehow recirculate through the rest of your body and affect your mind? So I don't know, I'm super jaded about any kind of form of birth control that is specifically aimed at changing the nature of a woman's body through hormones. And like, even the copper IUD, apparently copper binds to estrogen, so even though it's not a hormonal birth control, like, copper is still going to affect your hormones and completely change your entire menstrual cycle. So honestly, like, I just am so jaded by the stupid medical explanations that are not getting deeper into the whole body and how every system in your body is interacting with whatever hormonal changes are going on from these forms of birth control. So anyways, I'm a huge advocate for men getting vasectomies, because it seems to be the type of birth control that has the least amount of side effects and doesn't have to destroy a woman's freaking mind or body or life. But anyways, now that I have the IUD out and I'm in month 3, month 4, I do want to talk about how I've been affected by the changes. So the first 2 months, I would say I felt great. I was happier. Like, my period basically went back to almost back to normal, not as heavy as it used to be, but still definitely heavier than it was when I had the IUD. So somewhere in the middle, I would say. And then it also shortened to like 6 or 7 days rather than what I had before, which was like 9 to 11 days. By the 3rd month, the PMS symptoms were horrible. Like, I was warned about it and I was kind of prepared for it, but oh my god, like, it was just a roller coaster of mood swings and like high highs and low lows. After ovulation, I've noticed, like, whether I'm on birth control or not on birth control, I noticed that after ovulation I feel a mood crash, because actually estrogen goes down after ovulation and then it goes back up again. So I usually do get I do feel kind of crappy after ovulation, and then a little bit better during, I think, the follicular phase as it leads up to your premenstrual, before your period comes. But then that 1 week before my period, usually exactly 7 days before I get into a really bad headspace, like, because I know that my period is coming, at least I can just understand that this is it's gonna go away. Hopefully it only lasts a day or 2. I just feel super, like, just crappy, really negative and angry and or sad or whatever. And then it gets better for a few days, and then I'll feel crappy again the day before, and then during my period usually I'm fine. But this time it has just been such an unpredictable roller coaster where I'll feel crappier for longer, and then I'll feel good and for 1 day, and then I'll sink back into like, oh my god, this is like, I feel awful, and then I'll feel good again, and it's just like super up and down. And it is comforting to know that it's likely just, you know, my body's going through a lot of changes and I'm trying to adjust to new hormones, or I guess my body's trying to make its own hormones now. But yeah, that is probably the strongest side effect coming off of the IUD for me. So thankfully I don't see too much like acne flare-ups the way that some other women are on month 4, but again, I do have a couple of more months to regulate, so we'll see how that goes. Oh, and then another thing I wanted to recommend were some of the types of like food and supplements that I've heard about that are good for hormone balancing. So definitely anything that's good for your gut, like fermented foods, like fruits and veggies with a lot of fiber, protein, and I was also recommended omega-3, or I guess like omega fatty acids for supplements, or you know, if you can also get that from fish or seafood, that's also really great. And then I hear mixed reviews about B complex vitamins, because sometimes that could lead to more breakouts, like acne breakouts, but I do take vitamin B complex. I'll actually show you some of the things that I take. So this one I was recommended astaxanthin for skin, but it's like something that you have to take a very small dose of because it can cause some side effects, but it is a type of antioxidant. I think I've got all of this from Amazon, so I'll link it in the description. And then this is the omega-3 fish oil that I use. This is the B complex with L-theanine that I use. It also helps with it can help with anxiety or ADHD, like having the L-theanine in there to help kind of calm you down a bit. And then magnesium. I take this before bed, and I did have another supplement that I took for hair, skin, and nails, but I ran out of that, but I'll link it below. And in general, I just do try to eat a pretty decent diet, like less carby, I guess foods that don't have a whole lot of nutritional value in it. I really try to make sure that there's a lot of fruits and vegetables and protein. And spearmint tea is also apparently very good for hormone balancing and skin. So I keep being told that 2 times a day drinking spearmint tea is supposed to be really good, but I don't really like drinking tea, so I only have it usually once a day, or once every few days. And then for tretinoin, I do hear that some people could have bad reactions to it because it is really strong and can really dry out your skin, but I really love it so far and my skin reacted great to it. So if you do want to try to address acne, you have to get a doctor's prescription for tretinoin. It's just a medical grade retinol, and I do that 3 times a week, just a piece size amount after my serum. If there is any other recommendations you guys have for food or supplements or products that you think were really helpful for, whether it's your acne or just balancing your hormones or just health in general, definitely leave it in the comments. I also really want to hear about your experiences being on forms of birth control and then getting off of it, and how you adjusted and how things went for you. But I do hope to see better options for all people, not just women. Why is it that women have to be the ones to bear the burden? when we literally are only capable of conceiving once a month, when men are literally able to conceive whenever they want, and they never have to deal with the pain that women are always put through, whether that's actually, producing a whole ass baby inside of them and giving birth, or having to be the ones now to take all these fucked up drugs and destroy themselves and their minds and their bodies in order to stop the potential for a baby. Like, why is it that why can't men take more responsibility and like have other forms of birth control available for us? Like, I'm just so suspicious of it. Like, anything that involves changing your, anyways, I'm exhausted. 6 years of feeling like garbage and not knowing why until literally just a few months ago. I honestly had a time of like grieving. I was like really sad for my past selves. So I think like if anybody else is feeling like they wasted a lot of years, just like if you feel like you have been just not yourself for a long time and you do have some kind of birth control, IUD, the pill or something, like I would really like to hear if it did help you in a pretty significant way to come off of it. I really do want to hear your stories, and like honestly, I just feel so sad for my past selves, and just like don't know how many other women are out there who have gone through similar experiences, but I assume that there's a lot. And I want to be mindful of like what aspects of my experiences were actually, caused by circumstances versus birth control. But at the same time, if I'm constantly hearing the same things from women who have similar experiences getting on or getting an IUD or being on the pill and then coming off of it, like if there are so many videos out there of other people talking about this, then clearly like something's wrong, and I am just so sick of being gaslit. So anyways, I really want to hear your guys' experiences in the comments, please. I'd love to just get the conversation going more, even though doctors tell us one thing, but then people who actually have to go through it are saying another. I think that's pretty telling. So yeah, anyways, if you're still here, thank you for listening, and I do hope that this was helpful for you in some way. And subscribe below because I will be posting more videos in the future.